So the new case for my phone came with this mounting point, which I'm hoping that I'll be able to attach my phone to and show you my personal eye view of my hike. I'll have to play with it a little to make sure it works, points the right direction and everything else, but I think it'll work, at least some of the time, to show you the trail. Also, I can talk about anything I want, like my life story, which I promised I would share with you guys and keep not doing. What brings me to the trail? Well, I've never felt comfortable with the world in which I live. I was homeless from a very young age. Oh, not very young, but when I turned 18, I decided to go out to San Francisco and find myself. Found myself a drug addiction is what I found, but that was definitely not the plan. Didn't really have anything, didn't know anything, didn't know anybody out there, but I got out there and I made friends. Lived on the streets for a few years, got into some housing, but then around the time I was 30, I was sitting with some friends eating dinner. We were talking about how people that lived in rural places like Kansas and South Dakota must be dumb as shit. Because why would you want to live in some place like that when you could live in San Francisco? Well, now you couldn't pay me to live in a city like San Francisco. I mean, you could, but you won't. You know, give me a couple million bucks and I'll live in San Francisco for a year. But as soon as that year's up, I'll be back in the woods. Anyway, after a couple years of living in San Francisco, I got into a housing program, and that was good. And I was starting to get better, but still have this pesky drug addiction. So I decided one day that I was going to move to Hawaii. I packed up all my stuff, sold or gave away everything I owned, except for my backpack. And I'm just talking a book bag, not a hiking pack. And I took 3 changes of clothes and my laptop, and I got a one-way ticket to Hawaii. That was a pretty amazing experience. I managed to get clean. Been clean ever since. I'll smoke weed occasionally and have a beer once in a very rare while, but haven't touched crystal meth in 14 years. So I consider myself still clean. Because I never had an issue with weed or beer. I don't like being drunk. I don't even like the concept of being out of control, blackout drunk. Scares me to death. So it's not ever something I ever want to experience. And weed just gets me a little, it either dulls the pain or gets me feeling just mellow. So nothing really to have an issue with there. After spending a year on Oahu getting clean, I came back to the mainland. I had seen a video about the Appalachian Trail. At the time, I was like, well, that would be nice, but I was up, at my biggest, I was over 450 pounds. I could barely walk 20 feet. So when I first came back here, the idea of doing the Appalachian Trail was a distant pipe dream. I came back from Hawaii because I wanted to join the Occupy New York movement. I didn't end up doing that. Instead, I decided to lose some weight and hike the trail. So I came back from Hawaii in fall of 2011. My very first hike on the Appalachian Trail was spring of 2012. I did Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and then Vermont southbound. And that was my very first hike on the Appalachian Trail. Then, 2013, March 2013, I went down to Springer and I started hiking north. My first Appalachian Trail through hike attempt. That was going pretty well until I got to Virginia and ended up getting an abscess in my back from my pack belt. And at the same time, I got bronchitis and ended up having to get off the trail for 3 weeks. Take a bunch of antibiotics to get rid of the abscess and the bronchitis. They were probably linked. But after I recovered from that nonsense, I went up to Maine and I started hiking the 100-mile wilderness. And I fell and hurt my wrist in the 100-mile wilderness. So that slowed my hike down. I got off trail. At the time I was camping, I was sleeping in a hammock at the time, and my wrist was so bad I couldn't turn the doorknob or set up my hammock. So I got off trail for a while, let my wrist heal, and then I got back on trail, hiked Vermont southbound, and continued south and did Massachusetts, part of Connecticut, and then went down to Harper's Ferry, and I started hiking south from Harper's Ferry. Actually, I went not to Harper's Ferry so much. I went to Cumberland Valley. I started hiking south from Cumberland Valley, did Maryland, got to Harper's Ferry, kept on going south, and I was in Shenandoah in October 2013 when the government shutdown happened, and they closed Shenandoah, and they kicked a lot of hikers out. Some hikers, some of the through hikers, they were able to dodge the cops and make it through, but I was much slower, and they caught me and they threw me out. So I hitched down to Waynesboro, and scratched my head for a little while and decided I wanted to go back to Hawaii. So I went to the Big Island, did some work, stay on some farms, hung out, did some beach camping. It was pretty nice. But again, with Hawaii, I get to the point where I want to go backpacking, and there's no place. Hawaii's just a small island. Even the Big Island is pretty small. There's some like 3-day trip kind of stretches in the Volcano National Park, but nothing really backpacky. So after being in Hawaii for 9 months, 2014, I came back to the mainland, bummed around a little bit, and then 2015, I started again from Springer as my second Appalachian Trail through hike attempt. That one didn't do much better. I got to Virginia and I got, depressed. And I stopped hiking so much and started just kind of hanging out with hikers, bumming around, yellow blazing. When I got up to Vermont, Hanover area, I settled down. I got a job, found a place to live, and I've been living in the Hanover area off and on since then. I was living in Lebanon in 2020 during COVID, and I managed to save up some unemployment money, and that was what fueled my 2022 hike. This hike, again, I had, after my 22 hike, I got a job working at Dartmouth for a while and saved up some cash. That's what's funding this hike for the most part. So, I mean, that's the base bones of my life. The Appalachian Trail just fills a dark void in my soul. I don't really care I've never had a good corporate job except for a couple months at Dartmouth, but, they fired me, let me go. I don't know. I'm not built for working a steady job. I think I'll always be the nomadic person. I like to tell people that Metallica's song, Wherever I May Roam, is the theme song of my life. It really is. The line that hits home the most for me is wherever I lay my head is home. And I like the lifestyle. I'm not relying on anybody except for myself. I can make this work or not. And when the time comes for me to move on, I do. I'm not gonna get tied down. So many people in our society, they work their job, their 9 to 5 or whatever job, and they spend their whole life working a job, and then they retire and they're too tired to do anything. I mean, how often have you seen stories, guy retires and 6 months later he's dead? What the heck? I don't understand people that blow their entire life doing something that's horrible just so they could retire and then they're dead. Poof. So, that'll never be me. Hopefully.